Right, well, it's back to another weekend and plans have changed again. So I did have plans to do other stuff this morning, but we've just been out looking for some compost that we're not going to have to take a mortgage out to buy. But we've come across a guy pretty local actually, and he's going to drop it off any minute. So we've just put this tarpaulin down to take it, and we're getting 2 ton of premium grade topsoil delivered because not many places around here do green waste compost, and the places that we could find only did it in like 50 litre, 60 litre bags, and for a pallet you're talking absolute fortune. So we're going to get 2 ton of this premium grade topsoil. We've seen it, it looks pretty good, and it's just to top up all the beds really. So we'll give 2 ton of that a go. If it looks good, we'll see how much more we need, and we'll just go from there.
You can see in the distance there, we've got the gates open, ready for the guy to come. But although when we gave him our address, he didn't really listen. He said, "Don't worry, I'll find you." So we're hoping he will find us. But really what we wanted to get done was the beds that we've got filled with the rotted down horse manure. We always intended to add a bit of compost or topsoil, whatever we could get, as long as it's good quality. Obviously we want no plastics, no rubble, and most importantly no chemicals in there. So all we can do is keep our fingers crossed that the guys are, you know, that what he's saying it really is. And we're a little bit time poor on this because in a couple of weeks, Stephen and I have got a couple of weeks off. We wanted to be able to get the potatoes and the onions, things like that, into the ground during that time, but we can't do that until those beds are completely finished. So it's really important to us that we get this done either this weekend or next weekend. And this lovely chap that's going to turn up said, "I can deliver it now for you," and it was a really good price as well. So we have paid £60 per tonne, and it comes not in dumpy bags, just loose, and then £5 delivery, which we thought was really good. So his tipper only takes 2 tonne, so we're going to start off with 2 tonne, see how far we get, and then if we need more, well, we will need more, we'll just go 2 tonne at a time.
Yeah, it should be, yeah. Well, it's finally arrived. Took longer than I thought, so while we were waiting for him, that gap in the trees there behind me, we had like a little shed slash Wendy house, so I've been taking that apart because we've got other plans for that, area there to tidy it up. So that's going to get all moved, but first of all we need to get all this shifted into them beds. Right, well that's nearly 2 tonne of composted topsoil, and it's only done these 3 beds. We've got about 2 or 3 barrows left over there. We've just raked it all out to see where we're at. But it's pointless putting it in them other 2 beds down there. It looks like we'll have to get another 2 tonne for that. So we'll just get that 2 or 3 barrows shifted, top these 3 up, and then that's these done. We'll have to dish out some more money for some more topsoil by the looks of it. Never mind.
Well, all those sheep that are jumping. Is it out? Oh. Pardon? Oh, we'll have a bloody limp now. So the farmer's sheep keep getting into our... Oh. I'm caught in a tree. Keep getting into the paddock. They were in our field yesterday and they're in our paddock today. Now previously these fences have been fine for even cattle. Obviously they've deteriorated and things have happened over the years, and this is suddenly, we've got a bit of a space here that I'm not sure that we had before. Anyway, so that's now... Oh, Stephen's saying a tree's come down. So we've messaged the farmer because obviously between us we need to make sure that they stay out, and also cattle are on the other side of that fence in the summer, so sheep we can manage, but cattle will completely churn up our land, and obviously we've got a tiny bit of land compared to the farmers. So I've just messaged him, he's probably on his way down. Stephen will do what he can to secure it, but we really need to make sure that they don't get into any of our other livestock for a few reasons. Obviously we don't want any other diseases coming in, we don't want our land trampled, we don't want them beating up the animals that we've got because they're quite the dominant ones. It's always the same ones we've noticed that keep getting in. So we're taking a break from what we were doing at the top to sort this out now. You can see where the tree snapped just next to you.
I know, yeah. No, that's why I've just, it must have either, that one must have either fell over, because that's still got, or some bigs fell off and that spiked into the ground and then it's fell over.
And it's taken this fence down that usually keeps them out.
No, I don't think it's so. It's not keeping much out, is it? But even if you pull that, like.
Well, the farmer's gone to get some something to put in just as a deterrent, but ultimately it's going to need replacing in the long run, isn't it?
Yeah, just add it to the list, to the long ever-growing list. Right, so the plan we had before we were rudely interrupted by some sheep was the Wendy house I've took off over there. It's too good to get rid of, so we're going to put it in here and then we're going to transfer the ducklings that are in the barn into it for now, for the next month or so until they go. So I want to go, well, my plan was to get it all done today because tomorrow 2 of our sheep are going, so I'll need to get on with them tomorrow. So got a couple of hours light left. We'll try and get this down by then hopefully, so get on with it.
Thankfully, the area that we were trying to keep the sheep from coming back into is now fixed. The farmer came with his vehicle and put some of the metal posts in, and then we've just sort of attached the fence that's already there back up, but it definitely needs replacing this year. I did mention it to him, so fingers crossed we'll be able to get that done at some point, because generally their cattle go out in the next 4 to 6 weeks in that area. Anyway, we shall see. While Stephen's making those changes that he's just showed you and moving that Wendy house over there, I don't know what's going to go in that yet, by the way. The ducklings, or what were ducklings, now fully grown ducks, are going to be in there for the next 4 to 6 weeks, as he said. When we process those, which I know it's come around very quickly, that will be then empty and there'll be nothing waiting to go in it. I'm not sure if we will use it for storage for things for the garden, or if it'll be something else. We can't put chickens in it because the chickens will then be where the veggies and all of the beds are and they'll just completely ruin it. The ducks will be fine with it for the moment. I don't like to have ducks around the veg full time all year round because people think that they're really good slug hunters, which they are, but they do tend to eat the young and tender crops as well, so that's not ideal. But for the next 4 to 6 weeks, obviously that won't be a problem because we haven't got anything outside. Now, quick update on a couple of things. In fact, the beds, you saw the beds. Let me just quickly show you those beds and tell you what's going in them. Look, even though it's a colder day, the sun was out earlier and that's bringing out the bees. Oh, fantastic. Anyway, the beds over here. So all of these still need the last bits harvesting in them. We've been using those, as you guys have seen. But these are the final beds with all of the compost in. The last barrows that we put in, that Stephen mentioned, are all in now. You can see the change in colour. It's starting to dry out. So what I'm thinking is 2 of these beds, possibly, at least 1, possibly 2, will have potatoes in. So those are the potatoes that you saw chitting in the shed that Stephen and I started chitting. And the other one, I think, will have onions in it. That's my thoughts at the moment. I'm not too sure because I was going to put some beans in them. But then Stephen was saying, well, that'll end up being quite high if you do, because all of the beans that I'm doing, apart from one variety, are climbing beans. And then they'll possibly shadow out behind me, which is why we didn't put a polytunnel here in the first place. We shall see. And then these 2 beds are still going to be squash, which is what I mentioned to you guys before. There's also the bigger bed there that you might know from, used to have the compost bins in it. If you've been around a while, you'll know that. And that's just a big square, similar to those beds that we've just looked at. I'm also going to be putting squash in there. Winter squash we're talking about here, pumpkins, things that will last and store all through the winter. So we're going to be growing a lot of those this year. Some of them are going vertically, some of the smaller ones, and some of them will just be sprawling across the ground, going wherever they feel like. We are doing a lot of those because we want to really up our game for winter storage and preservation this year, so that's why we're doing that. But let's have a look in the greenhouse. Desperately need to get these pricked out and potted on. These radish are going to go straight in the ground somewhere. We're going to get that done tomorrow. And these cucumbers, these are the Tamara, are looking really good. But look, this is what happened the other day. Let me show you when I found the culprit. I absolutely don't believe it. Every single one of these has been eaten off. If I hadn't seen it, I don't believe it. I know exactly where you're going. No points for guessing where he went. I couldn't believe it. I mean, there's what? 1, 2, 3, 5 or 6 of my gherkins that have been completely munched by that little monster. I'm really disappointed about that, but at least I've got 3 left of the gherkins that we can be getting on with. Now, a quick look at the peppers. The lid's off these guys at the moment because it did get quite warm in there earlier. The majority of them are looking absolutely amazing. Some of them have dried out because you can't see from there, maybe if I go up here, just because the water tends to run this way and I didn't realise. So the water that I'd put in didn't get to a couple of the peppers on the right, but that's why, one of the reasons that I grow so many. So I need to make sure that I've got at least one of each variety so that I can keep the seeds for next year if we're successful at growing them this year, because I think all of the peppers, if I remember rightly, all of them are I'm able to keep the seed from. There's no F1s in there, so we should be good. And then at least if I get one from each variety, we'll know which ones are worth keeping. If not, I've got no more seeds to try for some of them. So they're looking really good, really big and healthy and strong. The other thing that you might have seen when I was showing you the cucumbers are these are the onions that I pricked out. I haven't done any more because I wanted to make sure that pricking them out into these cells a week later, everything was going to be okay, and it looks as though it is. Interesting how you can see these ones look a lot more dry than these ones. They don't need to be in this propagator, by the way. I've just put them in there just to keep them away from other things. So what I'm going to do is get the rest of the onions pricked out, and I've also got a load of tomatoes that I need to get on with, as well as these guys over here. And if there's any gardeners watching, which I know there are, it takes absolutely ages. You forget how long it takes to prick things out. So I'm going to be getting on with that. And look at this overwintered tomato. Isn't that absolutely wonderful? I'm going to take this side shoot off here, and this no, that's not a side shoot. I'm going to take this side shoot off here, and I'm going to get that planted up into, see if we can grow yet another one. So this variety is the Country Taste that I managed to overwinter. Now, I didn't pick Country Taste because it was my favourite, I have to be honest. It's a nice tomato, but the reason that it's growing is because it's the only one that survived. I tried to overwinter the Big Mamas or the Super Mamas, can't remember which variety it was, and I lost them all because, you know, it's essentially, some of them will survive, some of them won't. I've got 1 out of 5 left, which is one that you've just seen. But I'm really pleased it's been successful. It's something that I can obviously do moving forward now because I know how to do it. So I'm really pleased that that's worked out. Getting rained off again.
Well, I managed to get this up last night before it got dark, so this morning's quick job is I'm going to get some plastic down on the floor to protect the wood, fill it with a bit of straw and get the ducklings out of that stable, because unfortunately, well, fortunately for us, but unfortunately for them, 2 of our lambs are going in the freezer this morning, so we've got to get the stable prepared for the other 2 to go in when they're gone. So we're just going to get this in, get the ducklings in, and then get that sorted out in there. Hold that down.
Could be the doghouse for you.
I've got my own doghouse over there. Perfect. Who wouldn't want to be a duckling? these are them little cute ducklings that you're seeing on the 28th of January. They soon grow, so we're going to put them in here now. They'll be in here for probably the next 3 or 4 weeks. They'll have access to the outside and all the garden, because the beds we've put in, there's nothing in them but the too high up, I think, for these to get in and do any damage. So we'll just let them in here, have a root around for the next 3 or 4 weeks, and then they'll be gone for the freezer too. So like I said, we've got 2 lambs to do this morning for the freezer, which is these 2 small ones at the back. And these 2 here are our pet lambs. They're just companions for each other, and they'll be going in the stable once we clear the ducklings out. So we do them on site, so they don't know anything about it. We do hold the right licenses and everything to do it here on site. So they'll just be 1 minute eating the hay, and the next minute they'll be gone. So they'll know nothing about it. There'll be no transport. There'll be nothing like that. So it'll be quick, and is the best way. Well, the best way we think you can do it anyway for them.
Well, the lambs are done, and I have just brought the ducklings some water over, because we've kept them locked in here for the last hour or 2 just to make sure that they know that it's a safe place for them to be, basically. So I've brought them the water over in, where is it, in the drinker that they have. Now, as many of you might know if you've had ducklings, or if you've been watching anybody that does, they are super messy creatures. So where water's concerned, they create a mess, and if they're inside, it just floods wherever the bedding is, really. So it's something that you've got to stay on top of all of the time, which is why ours don't have a paddling pool, or whatever you want to call it, inside the barn or when we're inside, because it's a slip hazard basically, and it's just dangerous. Everything just rots, you know, all of that good stuff. Look at this. Are you having a drink of the ducklings? You stop doing it now, typically on the camera. Are you thirsty, Buster? Anyway, so now they're outside, what the intention is, we're going to get them settled in here so they know where's safe, where's comfortable. When they start coming out and about and getting used to the surroundings, we're then going to introduce a paddling pool to them, which we've always done with our ducks in the past. You guys may or may not have seen, but it was a comment last week that don't forget to give them a pool because they'll love it. Don't worry, we're on it. We've just got a bit of a staged approach to doing it. So now they're outside, when they're comfortable, they'll then get the paddling pool. So I thought it was going to be on this episode because we were expecting to have already had this done. But never mind, it'll be on the next one, I'm sure. So despite being around us every day, multiple times a day, these ducks are still quite skittish, so they'll be really noisy. I'm just going to open this door. Rodney out, so I'm going to leave that for them to then come out at their own free will. Once they see that the water's here, I am sure that they'll be out in a moment. But in the meantime, I've got lots of gardening that I need to get done. I mentioned yesterday about these beds housing the potatoes and onions. It's still so wet. We've had so much rain overnight again. It still feels really damp now. I have bought some onion sets as well as the seeds that you guys have seen me do, and I want to get those in as soon as possible. I did start them in modules last year. That seemed to work well. So if we don't have a dry spell where I'm going to be able to get them in, and I don't mean sunny and dry for days, but just a couple of days dry so that the ground is not quite as soaked. If we don't have one of those, then I'm going to get them in the modules to get them going. Otherwise we're not going to have all the onions that we need for this year. Now down here we've got the broad beans, which are so you may have seen, I don't think I told you, but the broad beans that were in the greenhouse that were taking a bit of a beating because essentially they probably should have gone out earlier. These were the autumn sown ones. I've just got those in the ground there just to see how they do. If I get a little harvest of them, fantastic. When I've got something else that needs to go in this bed, I'll just whip them out. But these guys here were the later sown broad beans, and they've just been happily sitting outside. I wanted to make sure that there's no snails or anything that's going to get them straight away, but they've been outside for a good few days now. So I will also plant them just at the bottom of this bed, and they'll be a little bit later obviously than the ones that are already in. But over the next week or so, the intention is I'm going to get these beds here completely cleared. There's only a few good carrots left in this bed here. The winter lettuce was a bit of a fail unless that takes off now. as we're moving into the warmer months, I'm not sure. And also the Swedes have been lovely, but they're starting to get nibbled by something now, so that's really irritating. It's the I'm sure it's the local mouse that comes out for its feed on a night. But anyway, also the last of the leeks. I've been taking the leeks from in between and they're still, I think they're reproducing, which isn't a bad problem to have. But also the parsnips, you can see the green tops. If I left these would grow and produce seed, but they are F1s, so I cannot keep the seed from them. I have got this variety again this year because, as you can see, I've just pulled some out there. They are absolutely fantastic. They are Javelin F1, so that's the variety that I'm going to be growing of leeks this year. And the plan is to get these beds completely cleared, these 3 here, and ready for the next lot of stuff that'll be going in. Hopefully, it depends. Our last frost isn't until the end of May, but there's some things that are frost tolerant that I'm hoping to be able to get out, and we'll make sure that we fleece anything as well. But that's one of the next things on the gardening agenda, is to get those cleared. And anything, obviously there's plenty of food in these beds, but I was going to say anything that can be salvaged from the carrots, because the last lot had quite a lot of root fly, carrot fly even. So yeah, those ones I'll salvage what I can, and we will essentially make whatever we can out of these 3 beds. So I look forward to that video if that's your thing. But in between all of the other jobs that I've got to get done today, I'm going to be working on getting those little seedlings that you saw yesterday pricked out. Now at the moment I've just been in the shed, and there's that bumblebee that every year I seem to disturb. I'm sure it's the same one every year. She's in there hibernating, or at least she's gone in since I was last in there. I think it's there was one in the greenhouse just the other day. It was actually caught in the propagator with the peppers, and I could hear a buzzing, and then I realised it was obviously a wasp or a bee. We had a really angry wasp in there the other day, and I don't know why we seem to get so many. It's fantastic obviously, but she's resting in where I want to be at the moment, so I'm just going to give her a little bit of time, and then we'll go back in, because I've got a few, taxi of mum jobs to get on with at the moment, and then we'll come back and I'll get settled for a couple of hours, and I'm going to take you through some of the other varieties just really quickly, because I did have a separate seed video, and then obviously the pony got colic, and you guys saw what happened there on that front. Touch wood, he's come out the other side of it, so I don't want to be too jinx myself by saying too positive, but it's looking good at the moment, so thank you to everybody that was concerned. The other thing, so many things to catch up on. Look at this wild garlic. So this bed here could do with a good tidy up, but I wanted to make sure that what I thought was wild garlic coming up is wild garlic. So obviously I planted these here, so I know that this is definitely wild garlic. These leaves here were coming up, and I was thinking, are they wild garlic? Because obviously you can see there's a dandelion there. That's dandelion, so that'll be coming out, but all of the others are wild garlic as well. And then there's some nice chives there, so I can get cleared the last of the winter stuff, and then we'll just be ready for the spring things coming out. This is a little bit further behind, being in the northeast, than the rest of the country, but these are definitely ready to harvest now. Isn't that looking amazing? So we've just had yet another downpour, and Stephen and I took the opportunity to go and get something to eat, and now we are just quickly putting up, or Stephen's quickly putting up, let's be honest, a little thing that I got for Mother's Day from my mum. So she bought it for me, even though she's my mum. So this is a lovely solar panelled Tree of Life sign that I'm decided Stephen had the good idea of putting it on the gate at the bottom of the garden, because that way I can see it from the kitchen window, where, let's be honest, I also spend most of my time.
Wish all jobs were as easy as that. Well, just give you an update on the lambs that we did this morning. Everything went smoothly, there was no problems. They've been hanging in the fridge now for a couple of hours, so I just thought I'd give you an update on what we use and how we chill them down. So I picked this up off a friend of mine about 6 years ago, and ever since we've been using it. We hang all our lambs in here, we hang all our poultry in here, ducks and everything, because we don't process it all the same day. They'll hang in here now for about 5 days, and then we'll cut them up. So I'm just going to open up and show you how they turned out. So this was our biggest one that we had. It's not totally set up yet, but it was a decent size, now to write home about, but we'll get a couple of decent joints off the legs off the other one as well, and the rest might get the back straps off it for 4 steaks out the back straps. Then all the rest will just go into mince, and we'll make burgers out of it. But Tracy will show you all that in a different video. So now we've got to get on with the boring jobs. Got to go and tidy all the stables out, the ones that we moved the ducklings out of, and we've got to get all them tied out so we can get the lambs in and collect all the eggs.
Well, as Stephen said, it's time to do the boring jobs, which are cleaning out all the pens. So There's a week's worth of you know what in here to get cleaned out, but first of all, it's not a boring job to collect the eggs, it's a really exciting job to collect the eggs. So these are the pullet eggs that we tell you about. These are off our Rhode Island Reds and Welsumers. They are still increasing in size very slightly each week. Some of them have come in to lay a little bit later than the others, but I find the dark ones absolutely fascinating. Are they the Rhode Island Reds?
Welsumers.
They're the Welsumers. I always get them the wrong way around. But just fantastic egg colours. And I think we've got a broody in here. So there's 2 days worth of eggs in here. And as you can see, this is why we're going to need to be doing lots of egg recipes coming up. So if you guys have got any recipes to share, please let us know. And once these are at full size, we'll also be selling them on our Honesty stall, which I think I told you guys about last time. But Stephen was saying, why don't we just sell the smaller ones and just do more eggs for the same price, which I think is a really good idea. Perfect, 20 eggs there from 2 days. So as you know, these are our older chickens. Not old as in they're not laying, just older than the pullets that we've got. All different kinds of eggs in here. We've got there's actually one in the nest box there, a lavender aracuna, which lays these absolutely gorgeous turquoisey coloured eggs. And then we've got the olive layers as well. So as much as we're moving to the Welsumers and the Rhode Island Reds moving forward, I still want to try and keep some of the really nice egg colours. Now I don't know if she's broody. Yep, she is. Come on out. Come on. Say hello to everyone. Say hello to everyone. Bust it off. You have to go down, darling. There we go. Some fantastic colours there. A little bit dirty, but once we get cleaned up in here, that'll sort the egg colours out as well. That'll sort out any muck on the eggs as well. Come on, boys, stop eating that. Right. Don't you just love our romantic dates, dear?
What?
Don't you just love our romantic dates? Well, that's that job done, but as you can see, as soon as the fresh straw is down, all the poo's been cleaned, that'll go on the compost. The chickens just come in and scratch it all about. So we don't take the straw floor out every week. We just clear where the poo is, which is mostly from when they're roosting on a night. These guys are going to have a whirl of a time kicking this all over the place, and they usually kick it all off, to be honest. And that's why there's no straw left on there to absorb the poo. But that's all clean. One job done now.
Well, the compost bins are working well. We've got grass in there, kitchen waste. Now it's got the chicken muck, more kitchen waste. So we just keep layering it, and then in time it will be perfect compost. You can tell the weather's warming up though, because these flies are a nightmare. Right, just give you a little update if you're thinking about keeping ducks. We've had 9 in this stable now for a week and a half, just over a week. And this is the mess that they leave. It stinks. It's wet, it's filthy. They're the most dirtiest animals you could keep. So it's a good job that the eggs and the meat are nice, or else we wouldn't be having them. But yeah, this is what you can expect if you're keeping ducks.
Fantastic compost though.
Hey?
Fantastic compost though. No?
Every cloud, I suppose.
So all of the waste from the ducks is going on the muck heap that we use for the horses. There's too much here to put on the garden compost spares really, but the chicken manure and the goat manure is ideal for the garden stuff. But there's so much wet duck stuff, like Stephen was saying. It's going on this one.
Right, that should work. We've just sorted this stable out for the 2 sheep we've got left. Get them inside for a few months to give a few weeks. Try and give the field and the garden a bit of a chance to rest. So our excess straw, to stop messing it all up, we've just tied it in a bit of tarpaulin and we'll just store it over there for now, I suppose, out the way, and then we'll get them in. Right, well, there's all the duckling stable cleaned out, so it's got a nice thick bed of straw in, a homemade hay feeder for them so they're not gorging on it, they can just pull it through their mesh there. Bucket of water in the corner, bit of food to entice them in, we'll give them in, give them a quick health check, maybe clean their hooves and that, and see what they look like. So let's go see if we can get them.
So no longer a duckling stable, now a sheep stable.
And then pigs probably in a few weeks. Boozy woozy. Come on. Come on.
You've lost one.
Come on. Here, Carol. Here. Come on. Here. Come on.
That's my top of my scales.
Oh, let them settle in.
No. Honestly, Stephen.
Well, we'll let them have that and then we'll come back in 10 minutes and give them a quick health check.
Trees aren't green, the ocean is grey, sky is a vague blue, come my way. My room is a mess, it could use a hand. My favorite TV shows to capture.
Flies are really bad today. Like Stephen said, as soon as the weather warms up, the flies come out. Can't have everything. Is there any left in it?
Yeah, a bit. So it's sloppy, like.
Well, the weekend is closing in on us now. The day's coming to an end. Look at the state of this paddock and you see how little grass there is on it. But it's now a case of all of the paddocks, or the big field as we call it, which is certainly big by nobody else's means, but it is by ours. The paddock over the other side of the fence and this one that I'm in now are all empty of livestock. So that's it. This is now going to rest until the horses go back out and until the sheep go back out, and we'll also be getting some pigs at some point too. But before we finish completely for the day, we're going to have one last switch around. The ducklings have gone into their new home, they're settling in just fine. I'm just making sure I don't slip over, that's why I'm stopping looking at you. And we are now going to move the old chickens that you've seen us just clean out. They are going to go into the shed that they used to be in last year, and then once they're in that shed, that means we can separate the Welsumers from the Rhode Island Reds using the 2 pens that are in the barn, because it's going to be at least anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks, people say, for us to be able to get eggs off them that are going to be true to the breed essentially. So anything that's left in them from a fertility point of view can take 3 to 5 weeks to get out. We're going to go for 6 just because they're still really young. That'll take us into the peak season for being able to breed from them, and then we can go from there. Anyway, that's us drawing to a close. A nice peaceful paddock behind me there. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time.